Hi everyone, it's me again. This is the second episode of my podcast, which was scheduled to be uploaded just a week after the first episode was released. But a lot has happened between today and the last time I uploaded an episode. Now it's almost been 3 weeks since I'm recording this today, and I'm sure it will be 3 weeks after I upload this. So a really great start for my podcast. Just missing out 3 weeks worth of episodes, and there are reasons why this took so long. It's definitely not because I'm lazy. That's not the case, but just a lot has happened since the last time I uploaded an episode. I turned 20 2 weeks ago, so that's something. And immediately after my birthday, I got food poisoning. So because of that, I was bedridden for a few days, and I just couldn't do anything. It's also one of those cases when you're planning something for a long time, and if you miss a date or something, just in your head, it's like you feel like not doing it anymore. But here I am. This is happening. It's the second episode of my podcast, and I've already forgotten most of what I said in the previous episode because it's been almost 3 weeks now. So I apologize if I repeat some stuff. It's gonna happen. I know. I totally forgot to introduce myself. If you didn't listen to the previous episode, I don't blame you. But my name is Apurv, and I'm your single host for this podcast. And I'm a singer-songwriter and producer. I've been thinking of making this podcast for so long and talk about stuff related to my music and just music in general. Among other things, of course. I'm not gonna talk about music the entire episode, or at least that's what I thought. So for the previous episode, if you haven't listened to it, I thought it would be a good idea to ask AI, asking ChatGPT to produce questions that I could answer on the podcast, just personal questions and stuff. Because it's a bit harder than I expected it to be able to come up with topics or questions on your own when you don't have a guest or anything like that. So I thought about what I would do on the podcast besides talking about music, obviously. But what I thought was that I would cover other topics related to anything else that you see on the internet, and there is a lot of shit that went down between the previous episode and today. So let's get into it. There's a video game that almost everyone knows today. It's called Tetris. It's that game that we played on our phones when we were small, in which there are blocks falling on the screen and you have to position those blocks to fit in. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what Tetris is. And recently, actually not recently, this happened a month ago, and on the internet, anything that happens like a few days ago is already history. So last month in December, I'm actually recording this on 31st January, so it's last month for me, but not for you. So in December, someone beat Tetris. So in December, someone actually got to the end of the game. A video game going on for 35 years and nobody was able to beat it. In December, someone actually did. It's a 13-year-old streamer that goes by the name of Blue Scooty. And when I say he beat Tetris, he got such a high score that the computer just froze. It just froze. And this is not just a throwaway achievement that anybody can do. Nobody did it in the last 35 years. So I think it's a pretty sizable achievement that the boy beat Tetris. It's already documented on YouTube. You can. I think you can find it. It's actually pretty good stuff. But this is not exactly why I brought up this topic. This event was so big that it got the attention of news channels, and one of the news channels, specifically called Sky News, I'm name dropping, did some pretty awful shit. You can actually look this up. You can type in "reporter makes fun of Tetris kid," and everything was going fine. It was a regular day of reporting news, and they were reporting about this incident that someone actually beat Tetris, and it was supposed to be pretty light-hearted news. But this reporter who was reporting the news, this anchor or reporter, I don't know what term you use, she was not happy at the fact that something like this would be in news. So at first, the reporter was doing everything she was supposed to do, reading off the teleprompter and reporting the news. But at the end of the news segment, it was like a 40-second news segment. At the end of it, she puts on this superior mask and she talks to the camera as if Blue Scooty is listening to it, and She just says, go get some air. She just says, step away from the screen, go outside, get some fresh air. Beating Tetris is not a life goal. She says it like, those people who say video games are such a waste of time. Just get out of your mother's basement and go outside, touch some grass. But those are the same people that obsess over a celebrity and make it their whole life about them. It's like saying you like something, you just gonna waste your time on it. If beating Tetris is not a life goal, nor is staring into a camera and shitting on a kid who just did something that nobody has done in 35 years. The saddest fact about this event is that the kid who beat Tetris, he actually dedicated all of this to his father, who recently passed away. So shitting on something like that on national TV is not really a good look. When I first heard about this, I wasn't surprised. I was actually laughing at how she says it. You can actually watch the video of the actual report. I've seen this happen so much. I remember there was another anchor, a much older one, I think, and he was berating these two guys on entering an esports event, and he was saying he was being all sarcastic about it and saying, "Oh, this is your life goal. This is what you aim to do in your life." And it received the same kind of backlash that this Tetris incident has received. So I don't know why people still single out video games. I know it happens in other genres as well, but I think it happens the most in video games because video games haven't been around as much as other forms of media has. Sports, music, and cinema has been around far much longer than video games have. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about how this reporter totally made a fool of herself on national TV. And also in the process fucked up Sky News, whatever that company is. I've never heard of that in my life. Moving on from that, let me just plug my Instagram right in this moment. I'm doing like a series of unplugged songs on there. If you wanna go listen to it. My brain just had a stroke there for a second. Let's talk a bit about the format of this podcast, because last time I remember talking hours on this microphone, and after I edited it all together into a finished product, I made a bunch of cuts. The final product was around 28 minutes. I guess after I make more episodes, I would get the ability to judge the duration of the episode. And I think I also need a set list or something for what topics I need to discuss or stuff like that, because I don't have that right now. This Tetris stuff was just something I had been thinking about a lot. I also forgot to mention another reason that why this episode is so delayed. On the day the first episode was released, we had exams going on in our college. It was the end of the semester's exam, so I wasn't going to record another episode when those exams are going on. But as I said, I got food poisoning, and my whole week was wasted because of that. I'm also not able to write any more songs for now, for my all acoustic album. I've written like 4 or 5 songs. I really don't remember how many I've written now because I haven't checked on them in a while. But recently I got new strings for the guitar that was missing 2 strings, and this happens to me every time. So every time I use new strings, I apply new strings, the first string always breaks in the matter of a few days. I don't know what it is about my guitar, if it's my guitar or it's my tuning technique or my string winding technique, but I've noticed for the past months, I think, or for the past year, any new strings that I apply, the first one always breaks because there's too much tension in that string. I think I finally figured it out. I think it's just because the guitar is actually getting old now and it's putting more tension on the first string or on all the strings. And for that reason, I down-tuned them to D standard. I know it's E standard for a standard tuning, it's E standard. But I down-tuned the whole guitar 2 semitones to put it to a D standard. So that means that any chords that I play, it would be played 2 semitones lower than whatever shape I'm holding. So if I want to play a C chord, if I played in the original C position, it would actually be a B flat. So if I want to play in the key of C, I would have to play in the key of D. So I would have to hold shapes in the key of D. So if I hold the D chord, it would actually be the C chord. So that's basically what I'm doing. It also makes the guitar much darker because the strings are much looser than before from the E standard tuning. And even if you have heavier gauge acoustic strings, you can still down tune them to make them a bit more loose and easier to play. I don't really see a problem with that unless I have to play any leads in the original key, because if you're downtuning the guitar to a D standard, you can just put a capo on the second fret and that would be it. Now anything you would play, it would actually be played in the right key. Anyway, I thought it would be helpful to share how I overcame that problem with my strings always breaking. So, if you think your guitar strings are a bit too tight that they break when you bend them, or when you're tuning the first string to the right pitch, you can always down tune the guitar. There's another thing I want to talk about, but I feel like it's much more of a serious topic than I would like to discuss on my podcast. But I would still talk about it a little bit. So, what's your favorite thing to watch on TV? I know people don't watch TV now, but if you asked me that question 5 years ago, I would probably say WWE, right? I think a lot of people would say that. And a few days ago, I think last week maybe, we got some devastating news, or at least for me it was news. I think most people knew what Vince McMahon was doing. So for people who didn't watch WWE when they were young, that's like 3 people on the earth. There's been some very foul play in the business, and from the looks of it, I think it's going on for a majority of the runtime of the show, or at least since Vince McMahon became the chairman. I don't know. I heard people saying that they were expecting this, that this was part of business, and it actually makes sense now because I think there's a lot of link between the WWE and Hollywood. It's not a direct link, but they are still linked. So if you don't know what happened with Vince McMahon, you can look it up. If you just search up his name, it's the first thing that shows up now. There have been serious allegations on Vince McMahon. And these are not allegations that you just throw away, like, oh, he left the toilet seat up or he ran over Stone Cold in a car. These are actual human trafficking allegations that are being set on Vince McMahon. I'm not going to go into details because it's pretty disturbing to talk about. And there is one woman who came out recently and said that Vince McMahon paid $15 million to 3 women to keep their mouths shut. And from the reports that I've read on the internet, I haven't read a lot of them, but I've read a few. And I think it's bad news. I think he should be convicted, and he should be going to jail if these come out to be actually true. You should read up on this on the internet. Because I don't really want to talk about that in the podcast. But on the topic of reading up, I think there's something I want to tell more people. I've only told this to one friend of mine, and the thing is that I'm trying to write a novel. Now I know it sounds pretty far-fetched for a songwriter to do, but I thought why not? Why the fuck not? It's a fictional story of a crew that crash lands on a wasteland kind of planet. I've written like 10 pages of it up till now. Now that I think about it, I actually showed 2 friends of mine. And this friend, I called him on Discord and I was reading whatever I wrote to him. And he said that a lot of it reminds him of Halo. When you're looking at TV shows or movies like Star Wars or Star Trek. And even Halo, they made a really awful TV show on it, but still, you look at those and you wonder if you could actually make a universe like that. So yeah, that's just something I've been trying to do. It might take a lot of time. It might take years from now, but it's something I really want to do. Moving on from that, after my previous episode was released, I went on Instagram and I asked people if they wanted me to talk about something, and Adam from Instagram wants me to talk about urban myths or urban legends. Now, for people who don't know what urban legend means, I'll just pull up a definition. So Google says that it's a piece of information that is circulated as if it's true, but it could be linked to superstition or religion. Stuff like old fairy tales and witches and unicorns and stuff. Some of the examples of urban legends would be Bloody Mary and the Siberian, the dancing lady from Siberia, whatever the fuck that is. There is one urban legend that I was interested in for the past couple of years. It's become common on the internet now, and that is skinwalkers. So Google says that a skinwalker is a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal. I just think it's such a badass concept that you could just turn into an animal like an animagus from Harry Potter. Then I guess all of the characters in Harry Potter who can turn into animals are skinwalkers. So if you ever thought that Minerva McGonagall is super hot, which is a very weird thought, you should know that she's also a skinwalker. Now, there's an important piece of information, a very important piece of information, that skinwalkers and werewolves are not the same thing. Although they have similar properties, like turning into an animal, they're still not the same thing, because a werewolf can only turn itself. It's a man who can only turn himself into a wolf. Into a man wolf when he sees the full moon, and it's not in his control, and he can only turn himself into a wolf hybrid, a man wolf hybrid. But a skinwalker, on the other hand, could transform themselves on their will. They don't need special circumstances like a werewolf does. I was really fascinated by skinwalkers because it is something that you can always think about being true. Now, they say that if you whistle in the woods at night, you might attract the attention of skinwalkers. And by they, I mean some random internet guy or girl, I don't know. There was one comment that I saw under one of the skinwalkers videos that I watched, don't ask me where. And it said that if you whistle in the woods at night and you hear a response, like a responsive, like another whistle that echoes yours, you might be able to encounter a skinwalker. So, the next time you're in a forest at 3 a.m., why don't you whistle and see where it goes? I think it would be such a badass way to die if they are actually real and they response back with another whistle that is exactly identical to yours. All right, I think that's it for the second episode. I know I didn't talk a lot about music. In particular, I didn't really say anything about music at all. But, I just wanted to branch out into other topics as well instead of just talking about music. So I think this is a good enough ending point for this episode. Oh yeah, before I end the episode, I want to give a shout out to Sushi's lemonade stand, wherever the fuck that is. He didn't give me the address. Just go out onto the road and see if you can find him. I don't know. I think he makes amazing lemonade, and it's very cheap. I think it's a few doubloons or a couple of dimes, I think. He uses a very special technique that's been passed down by generations of his family, and I think it's called the cut and spit. So he cuts the lemon into his mouth, and then he just sits there for a second, and then spits it into the glass, and just fills it with water. I think it's a great recipe for a lemonade. You should probably try that sometimes. And totally go to Sushi's lemonade stand. So yeah, that's the second episode. I know it might be a bit shorter than the even shorter first one, but I think I would find more topics by the end of this. As soon as I decide if I want to make a third episode or not. But my comments are always open on Instagram. My DMs are open if you want to give me any questions or topics to talk about in the next episode. You can just put it in the comments. I always see the comments. And hey, another shout out to Sushi. Thanks for sponsoring this episode with your beautiful lemonade. All right, bye.